Hello, survivors! I'm your host, Get Good Fox, and it's time to continue State of Decay 2 Hyper Community World Tour, where I go around every map and review all of the bases. Today, it's, well, Fort Marshall's turn. As you can see, we're fully built up, and we're ready for review. Right off the bat, I want to say, Fort Marshall, unfortunately, is not very good. In fact, I'm going to go right out and say Fort Marshall is the worst of the 8-man bases, and I will explain why. First, though, let's get the basic stats out of the way. Fort Marshall, right here, you'll find it in southwest Trumbull Valley. You need 8 people to get in, and strangely, 2,000 influence. It's the only 8-man base that doesn't cost the maximum price, which this one does, of 3,500. Also, farmland compound, unique for being the only 6-man base that costs 3,500 influence. So, what is wrong with Fort Marshall? Kind of everything. It's, first off, you only get 2 large facilities to customize and 2 small. You remember, you can tell a customizable slot versus a built-in permanent spot by this kind of blue color. That means it's a permanent, and then this brown color means it's customizable. So for an 8-man base, that is all you get. You get 2 large, 2 small, and what Fort Marshall tries to do is compensate with some unique built-ins. But here's the problem. First up, you've got the military clinic. This is essentially, it's no different than just having a level 3 infirmary. So this is something you would build either way. So it's really not a major benefit. You would want an infirmary one way or the other. Over here, we've got a latrine. The problem with this is that it's literally a level 1 latrine. A level 1 latrine is not very good. It's basically equal to just having a mod that gives you 10 morale. It's awful. Then you've got a mobile catering station. This is a kitchen that for some reason, despite being a built-in, costs 1 material per day. So one of the main benefits of being built-in is that it doesn't cost materials, and yet here it does. It does cost materials, and kitchens aren't very good. Rationing is bad. There are much better ways to deal with your food than rationing. Preparing a feast, also bad. There are better health bonuses, better morale bonuses out there. You can get enclaves that will give you 25 health or 25 stamina, and you don't have to constantly feed food into the system to do it. Like this thing, it's basically useless. Over here, you've got the military shooting range, which also, for some reason, costs 1 material per day, just like a level 2 shooting range. And it just gives you all the same benefits. There's nothing better about it. It's just a level 2 shooting range, but it doesn't have any of the additional benefits of being a built-in facility. Normally, it wouldn't charge you 1 material per day, and you could just build one. There's nothing special about this. And then you have a cramped barracks. The cramped barracks is another one of these, not great facilities. You get 8 beds, but you lose 3 morale. To put it in perspective, 8 beds, let me get the calculator out. Let's just do some quick maths right here. Okay, so to understand how the beds work, each bed removes a loss of 7 morale. So we've got 8 beds, not times, let's start that. 8 times 7 is 56, right? But we lose 3 morale, so 3 times 8 is 24. So it's 56 minus 24. And so you're gaining 30 morale. That is awful. You are gaining nothing more than 32, or let's just round it to 30 morale. That is useless. Beds are bad, so this facility is a waste. Over here, we've got a level 3 storage. It's you have to upgrade it yourself. You have to do basically all of it manually. And so what you're winding up with is, and I also forgot the defensive towers. What's happening out here? Here is another problem with Fort Marshall. It is basically under near constant attack from zombies. The safe area does nothing. The safe area, right here, it does absolutely nothing. It is constantly under attack by zombies, and it's really, really aggravating because you're hoping that your home base is going to be kind of like the one area that isn't going to have constant attacks from zombies. Because if you want to fight zombies, let me tell you, there's plenty of zombies out in the field. There's no shortage of it. But here you go. Oh, looks like that juggernaut derped up. Nope, he's gonna make it through, and here we got our handy... Oh, looks like we overkilled him there. But yes, this place is constantly under attack. It doesn't offer any particularly notable defensive benefits. Some people have suggested blocking entrances with cars. You can do that on any base. That is not something that is unique to Fort Marshall. And what you get here are the defensive towers. At least the defensive towers don't cost ammo, and they don't cost building materials. But all in all, this is what you got. Defensive towers, useless. Mobile catering station, useless. Well-used latrine, very low value. Cramped barracks, useless. So you've got all of these facilities that are no good, and what you've got that are decent is a military clinic and a shooting range. Well, you know what? That totals to 1, 2, 3, 4 small facilities, 2 large, and you know what had four small and 2 large? This base right here. You can see on the left, it's got 1 large outdoor, 2 small indoor, 2 small outdoor, and one of those, the factory storage can be removed. That's actually a removable facility that becomes another large outdoor. So you get 2 large outdoor, you get 4 smalls, and then you know what? You also get the meditation garden and the factory incinerator. And you know what? The factory incinerator, it's going to give you more morale. Yes, you do got to feed a lot of resources into it, so it's not an insanely good one, but you know you get the Zen meditation garden. That at least gives you free morale, and it gives you medicine, whereas this gives you basically nothing. The Zen meditation garden is going to give you more morale than clean the toilets, and it's going to give you medicine. This, like I said, these aren't very good. This is like... I guess it's a watchtower. Watchtowers are not a very important part of the game. And then once again, like I said, beds are not valuable. And then the beds are further reduced in their value by having a close quarters morale penalty. I am trying to counteract it with a comfy chair. If you've got a white noise machine, you could plug +10 morale in there, and that would be a lot stronger. But you know what? Most of our morale is going to be from this, from very powerful lounge facilities. That's where our morale is going to come from, not from beds. So, what is wrong with this base? Well, it doesn't do anything that is worth having 2,000 influence and 8 people. You can go into a much smaller base, or a base that costs only a bit more, about 1,500 more, the farmland compound, and you're going to get way more value. Let's compare it to other 8-man bases. So, you've got the container fort. What does the container fort offer? 2 large, so you're on par there, but 6 customizable small facilities. 6 facilities of your choice, and let me tell you, you can always build a better base than what these built-in bases have. You can always build something that is far superior than what Undead Labs chooses for the bases, because what they choose are, frankly, the bad facilities. The latrine has some value in the very beginning of the game, and if you have a utilities guy, then yes, maybe you can get a little more value out of the latrine. Unfortunately, because the latrine here in Fort Marshall is stuck at level 1, you can't upgrade it and get all of the benefits, the full benefits, with especially with a plumber, of a level 2 latrine. So it's stuck in its worst form, a form that honestly is only useful in the very beginning of the game. Now, if we compare it once again to the container fort, you're going to have way cooler options. So over here, you only get 1 outdoor slot. So if you want to build a crafting still, well, you've got to sacrifice either your repair or the workshop, or you're going to have to sacrifice the fighting gym. And the fighting gym is really good. You want to have that fighting gym. So there's no room to get any of the other really good facilities. If you want to plop in some Red Talon stuff, it's going to be kind of awkward. You know, you want like an officer's quarters. The officer's quarters will only fit right here because it has to be on an indoor facility. So there's just no option to make this base extremely good. It's always going to be a mediocre base. It's always going to be just kind of bad. And that's why I would say go into the Tranquility Factory instead. Tranquility Factory only needs 5 people, and it's only, I think it's like 1,000 influence. Let's double check real quick. Yeah, it's only 1,000 influence, so it's half the price. For half the price, you get the same base. In fact, it's actually a better base. Tranquility Factory gives you 4 customizable smalls, 2 larges, and then you also get the Zen Meditation Garden and the Incinerator, which, you know, maybe later in the game you would use, but most likely you would move into the farmland compound. Let's compare it to the Prescott Fire Station, though. Prescott Fire Station is similar in the sense that it does rely heavily on its built-ins, but you know what Prescott Fire Station has? It has water and power. So if you are doing a playthrough where you are unlocking your boons, or you're doing a playthrough where maybe you're just not using amenities, because maybe you think amenities is too strong, which is the builder's legacy, then Prescott Fire Station offers you water and power in the same building, which is absolutely fantastic. So, once again, that base has, you know, relatively similar customization options, but the built-in, it actually has built-ins that matter. It has built-ins that give you what you're looking for, and that's, once again, the main problem with, wait, why didn't you die? You did die, there we go. With Fort Marshall. Awful customization options, honestly, and the built-ins you get, most of them don't matter. And the ones that do matter, you would have built anyways.
That's not nothing.
Because what are you going to do? Make a base that doesn't have a infirmary? You're always going to have an infirmary. And I would say the shooting range is possibly optional. It is really good, though. And you know what? The level 1 shooting range is better than the level 2. Why? Because the level 1 gives you the 20 stamina. That's the main reason you're building the shooting range. And the level 1 doesn't cost any materials. So this is worse than a level 1. And even on Lethal Zone, the level 1 only costs 13 building materials to make. So it's not even that expensive to construct. So I really just, unfortunately, I know some people are a fan of Fort Marshall, but I got to give you a realistic assessment of the base. The people who say they like Fort Marshall typically praise its aesthetics. They praise, like, you know, they like the look of it, but no one praises its capabilities. I've never heard anyone say, hey, Fort Marshall is a highly effective base. Everyone says they like that the zombies are constantly attacking it. In other words, they see the negative as a positive. But no one has ever told me, oh yeah, like, there's such great customization options in Fort Marshall. I can build the base of my dreams there. It's just, it has such strong capabilities. That is just not something that I'll hear anyone say. So, I just cannot recommend Fort Marshall. Instead, what should we do? I'll give you a much better path of progression on the base. What you should do is you would start in Checkpoint Delta, right? And from Checkpoint Delta, you would either go to the Pterodactyl Park, or you would go to Tranquility Factory. Tranquility Factory has the advantage that you've got basically all of Marshall to loot. It also has the advantage that you're not inside Marshall. Like, notice that this area here, it's not purely in the high-density area, unlike Fort Marshall, which is literally smack dab in it. And you can still have all the looting you want without much of a trip, but you're not literally inside Marshall. Another disadvantage that this has is that, well, you're inside Marshall. Marshall is heavily congested with wrecks. There are wrecks everywhere. Just look right over there, and you can just see it. There are wrecked vehicles everywhere you go, and if you live here, that's what you're going to be dealing with day in and day out. You're going to be swerving through wrecks to get in. You're going to be swerving through wrecks to get out. Another thing that I don't like about this base is, like I said, I don't think that this base is any more defensible than any other base out there. Some people have said that, well, if you put a Haven device in here, then the base is really defensible. Well, not to be rude, guys, but any base that you put a Haven device into, any base with a large facility that you plug a Haven device into, it's gonna be really defensible because the Haven device kills all the zombies as they approach. So, you know, that is not like a particularly unique advantage to Fort Marshall. And what's worse is if you do build the Haven device, well, there goes one of your 2 large facilities. If you were living at a place like Whitney Field, you'd still have 2 because it has 3 large facilities. You could build a Haven device, and then you could build your 2 favorite large facilities, which will probably be a trade depot and a level 3 lounge, which is another problem. Now, that's a problem in general with 8-man bases. Any 8-man base that doesn't have 3 large facilities or more, I am unlikely to recommend it, simply because the domain of 2 large facilities, that is a mid-game. Mid-game bases have 2 large facilities. You want more than 2 out of such a massive base. Let's see what you got for sale.
Let me see what you got.
Might as well.
Yeah, I'll take the ammo.
Okay, this stuff is heavy.
And yet, that's another thing to count against Fort Marshall. And once again, I understand that some people like it, but the reasons people like Fort Marshall are always coming down to aesthetic reasons. Let me sell these back. We gotta stay over 3,500 for the next base. Getting a little carried away. Lost some money there, but you know, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But as I was saying, the people who like Fort Marshall, they always cite aesthetic reasons, and here at Get Good Fox, where I'm trying to advise people how to play to their best capability, I just cannot recommend something based on aesthetics. You know, I may comment on the aesthetics, but if the base is not good, then I just cannot give it the Get Good Fox seal of approval, because it will deceive less experienced players, and they may wind up in this base and potentially just get straight up owned, because the base will constantly come under attack, and you're greatly increasing your probability of like a bloater mishap constantly driving through Marshall. In fact, before I even got this recording going, I accidentally hit a bloater that was laying in the shrubbery. Fortunately, our health is so high that I was able to basically just drive through half of the duration until I got home, and I didn't even get the full blood plague infection, but it happened. And if it happens to me, there is a really good chance that it's going to happen to you. So, to wrap things up, Fort Marshall stinks. I'm just going to say it. I know, like, some people don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. Fort Marshall is the worst 8-man base in the game. So in terms of, like, endgame bases, it is proportionately the worst. I'd love to give it a better rating, but the base just isn't working hard enough to get it. I'd even love to say, you know, like, oh, you know, it's pretty on par with some of these other bases. You know, it's kind of, you know, it's not the best, but it's on par. But the problem with Fort Marshall is that it is distinctively the worst. Because we can look at its neighboring bases, like I said, Prescott and the container fort, and I can identify clearly good things that are definitely a benefit to you there. But with Fort Marshall, there is just nothing good going for it. So I would say, when it comes to Fort Marshall, skipperoni. Where is that feral at? Oh, coming from a weird direction. Spin him off. Get out of here, ferals. All right, so since we got some loot, we're going to go ahead and... Oh, he's attacking over here. No, you don't. Okay. We got some stuff to sell, and that's exactly what I want to do. Oh, this is, by the way, that basically concludes my review on Fort Marshall. I know it's a shorter review, but the problem is that it's just really easy. Like, Fort Marshall is not a difficult base to review. There is no confusion in my mind. There's no, like, you know, it could go either way. I was very confident in my answer, and I was just trying to think of, how do I say it firmly to really make it like an emphatic review, but at the same time not come across as like a huge jerk. So it was, there was, you know, behind the scenes thing, there was actually 4 versions of this review. Some of them were because I kept getting interrupted by things, but other ones I'm like, yeah, let me be like, there's no need to like, I know people like this base, so, I don't want to like say anything like really mean or anything, but at the same time, like, I really want to push the newer players away from this base because it is not worth your time unless you're just interested in visiting it because maybe you just want to see each base. But if you want to just make selections based on good ratings, like you're doing your Yelp reviews, you're looking at the Amazon reviews, well, this base, bad reviews. Let me know what you think though down in the comments section, especially if you're a fan of this base. If you're a fan of this base and you're a fan of it for more than just aesthetic reasons, then sure, I'd love to hear the reasons why you would argue that this base is good. And, like, you don't have to consider it, but think about the neighboring bases. Think about how is this base better than Tranquility Factory, which has the added bonus of only needing 5 people and half the influence cost, only 1,000. And then also, how is this base better than, say, like, look at all these zombies just crowding around the area. Probably going to get dragged over here just by trying to get them, having to weave through all the wrecks in downtown Marshall. Oh, it stinks. But how would you recommend this base over something like the container fort? That's what I would be very curious to know. Throw in the ammo. That's just going to get exploded, but whatever. It'll just have to get exploded. They're going to destroy my materials. Ah, and there's a feral too. Yeah, I hear him hissing in the background, so we got a feral coming in. Every time you come here, you're just gonna have more and more zombies. It's just, there's the feral.
I hate those things.
Good. And then over here, we've got this.
Fire in the hole.
And this happens constantly. I'm not joking. Like, I did not plan this, and it just happens. All of the time. Personally, it drives me nuts. I know some people prefer it because they're like, wow, I love lots of combat. I love to kill a whole bunch of zombies. Okay, it's fine. If you want to kill a bunch of zombies, it's fine. My problem is that if I want to kill a bunch of zombies, they're all out in the field. Like, I don't want to bring them home with me. I don't want to, like, I want this to be this is supposed to be my safe space. But, it's just not when it's over here. Looks like we got a quest for plague samples, so let's go ahead and get that done. And I'm also going to patch myself up. Might as well heal our remaining blood plague level. Shove these in. That is Fort Marshall, though. Constantly under attack. Like, if I were to give it a tagline, Fort Marshall, disappointing and constantly under attack. That would be my kind of like the title of my review. Let's get on over there, though. Like, look at this. Wrecks everywhere. A lot of people say it, too. I know it's not me. A lot of people leave in the comment section like, man, I wish you could do something about all the wrecks in Marshall. I wish you could, like, push them out of the way, or I wish you could, like, pick them up and salvage them and clear the road. Not an option, I'm afraid. Just not a feature of the game. People have told the Undead Labs that for, like, a very long time, that they would love to have the ability to scrap vehicles in the middle of the road. And it's just not in the cars. So see this foliage here? You never know when a bloater is just going to be in the foliage. It can happen. So when you're driving through Marshall, you probably just can't drive at full speed because of all the wrecks. But the other thing is, be ready to bail out. Though, I will say on the other hand, if you run over a bloater and there's a feral nearby, depending on how much damage you can take, you might want to just keep driving, because sometimes you can drive and lose the feral and then get out of it. It definitely depends on how much health you have, how much damage you can take, and it definitely depends on how much blood plague infection you can handle. But even on lethal zone, yeah, you can stay in the car for a little while. So it can still be worth it. Speaking of blood plague infection, that is another disadvantage I guess the review isn't completely over. Another disadvantage is the fact that you're not really going to be able to do powerful god combos like double infirmary or double primary care. And you do that by having both a hospital and a level 3 infirmary. And you can't do that without also sacrificing either your lounge or your trade depot. And what do you need? Well, you need like 3 large facilities to do that.
Bye now.
Here we go.
Hey out there, Tracy here.
Oh.
Coming to you from the bustling metropolis of Marshall.
I only have 2?
If you've
I
been down
goofed.
here, expect you to
Good
see
news
what
though,
the
we are
Lord has
in
to this town.
an area that has a ton of zombies, so let's go ahead and
Playgrounds
just...
almost took over the valley. But thanks to some brave folks.
We'll just go knock some of these guys down and we will get ourselves a sample. One thing that annoys me about Trumbull Valley, this is specifically from the perspective of a content creator, but maybe you guys can relate too, but I get really tired of the radio chatter. I gotta like, basically, you know, Tressy's talking right now, and I basically have to talk over her. Because there's no way to skip the dialogue. There's no way to shut off the radio. You know, that's something that I don't understand why it doesn't exist in the game. Why don't they have an option to just shut the radio off? Because you could do that, and I mean, one, it makes sense from, like, literally just a game perspective of, like, hey, let me turn off, like, a dialogue that's kind of annoying. But it also makes sense from, like, a realistic perspective. Like, I don't have to listen into the radio. Or I could tune to a different, like, frequency. I don't know, nothing forces me to, like, listen to it. Not with Tressy or really anybody, though. And it might not seem like that big of a deal. You might be like, hey, Fox, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. And it isn't that big of a deal. But it also is, one, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal to fix. Like, it seems like a pretty easy fix. And two, it does become, if you've played the game for, like, a year... And probably even before a year. If you played the game for like half a year, you are probably going to get tired of hearing the same dialogue over and over again. Now me, I played the game for 4 years. Now this hasn't been out for very long, but it all starts to bleed together.
Hey, hon, I appreciate the help.
All right, so now they're going to become friendly.
Take care now.
These are the people we've been ignoring. Oh, someone else got it. No, they did become friendly. I don't know why it didn't update them, but it doesn't really
So
matter.
nice to see
What do you
you.
guys have for
What
sale?
do you have to trade?
All right.
Nothing that I really want to buy. I'll buy the gasoline. Remember, it's okay to buy from, you can buy from basically any enclave, and you're going to get the normal price. The only exception is an ally. Allies will give you a better price, but neutral enclaves, they will also sell to you at a neutral price. The only thing about neutral enclaves you don't want to do is... Oh, here's a feral. Let me see if we can... Oh, there we go.
So tired.
The old drop kick. Very useful for dealing with an isolated blood feral. Not going to help you against a whole group of them because they will interrupt your attacks. They're not going to let you actually get that execution off. But against a single blood feral, absolutely good. Also, here's another thing I'm talking about. So, like I said, some people really like feasts and whatnot, but you can look at my stamina and my health, and like you can see, I still have plenty of stamina. I've got plenty of stamina. I've got plenty of health, and even in my most hardcore playthroughs on Twitch, I did a fresh start. No overpowered things like no pyro launcher, no impaler, and then on top of that, I could only pick quirk skills. So those would be the skills like music, those would be the skills like sports trivia, and with that, I still didn't use a, what do you call it, a kitchen? One, we just couldn't use it. Well, we wouldn't have been able to cook, but even if I could cook, I wouldn't have used it anyways. You don't need to cook to ration, and I didn't do any rationing either. You can get all of the stamina and health that you need without using it. And, well, I guess the game is helping me with more attacks on Fort Marshall. I'll see you back at base. Oh, would you look at this? This is the attacking horde. Let's go ahead and toast these guys real quick. Oh no, we got it. I thought that maybe we didn't get that bloater, but I guess that bloater is just not going to count as being a part of the base. Anyways, I think that's gonna wrap this up. That is my review of Fort Marshall. In summary, This base is bad. It is the worst 8-man base, and honestly, it's probably amongst the worst bases in the game due to the fact that it just... If it's one of the worst 8-man bases, and there are literally smaller bases that can compete with it, then unfortunately, it's got to go very down deep towards the bottom of the list as one of the worst bases in the game. Once again, if you like Fort Marshall, that is fine. My review is not meant to make people be like, wow, WTF, I hate Fort Marshall now. If you like the base, that's perfectly fine. My goal is to make sure that new players have a good experience and can get the knowledge that they are looking for. Nothing more, nothing less. So I will always be very clinical with my reviews and purely review the bases from the perspective of how much power and value they are going to bring to the upcoming State of Decay 2 experienced survivor. Anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments section. Do you agree with my assessment of Fort Marshall? What do you think about driving around Fort Marshall? If you agree with me, let me know. If you don't agree, tell me what is so good about Fort Marshall that I may have overlooked or didn't have an appreciation for. Tell me down in the comment section. Anyways, let me know what you think. Like the video if it was entertaining. Subscribe for future State of Decay 2 content. And of course, remember that you don't have to be good to get good.